Welcome
Hey
to
Michael, how are you
Counseling.
doing? Blah, blah, blah.
We're gonna do this the other way, aren't we?
No, I won't do it. I'll let you go.
I'm supposed to be the annoying one. So we have a race this weekend, Albert Park.
Is that the intro?
I guess it's not the intro.
Give us
Welcome
an
to
intro.
Caliper Counseling, a F1 podcast. There's the intro.
Powered by
Counseling and F1
Broadcast
podcast.
Therapy.
Yeah, our broadcast therapy sessions. What is on your wrist? Do you have a tattoo on your wrist?
No, it's a stamp for a show.
Oh, they had a tattoo.
Nah, I'm not cool like that.
So Albert Park,
Yes,
the
sir.
Australian GP, is this weekend, and we decided we were going to do it since there was no race last weekend. We're going to do a race preview of the next race, Albert Park, the Australian GP. Right, Andrew?
Certainly right, Michael.
This race last year gave us hope for the year. Because this was the second race of the year, I believe, right? First race, second race. Second race of the year.
I remember they started with Bahrain for COVID reasons, but I can't remember what followed up.
I think this was the second race, if I'm not mistaken, because Leclerc won this race. Leclerc won this race. Starting grid for this race last year, you had Leclerc on pole, Verstappen in second, Perez third, Norris fourth. Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Yes.
Hamilton fifth, Russell sixth, Ricciardo seventh, which pretty good start from Ricciardo. Ocon eighth, Sainz ninth, Alonso 10th, Gasly 11th, Bottas 12th, Tsunoda 13th, Zhou 14th, Schumacher 15th, Magnussen 16th, Vettel 17th, Latifi 18th, Stroll 19th, and Albon 20th. Now Stroll and Albon looks like they did not put up a time, so they might have been. Oh no, Albon penalized 3 grid place penalties for causing a collision the previous race. Disqualified from qualifying for a fuel infringement. Stroll penalized 3 grid position for causing a collision during qualifying. Failed to set a time in Q1.
So that's last year.
That's last year. That's the starting grid. So who do you think will be on pole for a starting grid
For this year.
for this year?
Well, it's definitely not going to be Charles again. I think everyone can agree on that.
I don't think so either.
The Red Bull does look like it's kind of competitive. You know what? Maybe we shouldn't say that because the Red Bull did look like it was competitive in qualifying. It's okay on 1 lap pace, but it's just not going to be a competitive car when it comes to the race. I mean, going out on the limb here.
Red Bull?
Sorry?
You said Red Bull.
Sorry, I meant Ferrari.
You said Red Bull.
Ferrari.
Okay.
Ferrari is a pretty
me.
decent 1 lap qualifying pace car, but it's just nowhere in the races.
No.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it might be a Red Bull on the front row. It might even be both of the Red Bulls on the front row, and I think
This is a wild card pick.
I think Max is gonna lock out pole coming off of what in his mind and to his standards what might be a disappointing weekend in Saudi Arabia. I think he's gonna come back with a fire this weekend and kind of show us the driver he's been the last few years, just very quick and very comfortable in that car. I am interested, though, if we're going to see any more Red Bull reliability issues. You know, if we're going to have anything like Verstappen had in qualifying with his drive shaft failure, or if we're going to have any issues during the race like they did near the tail end of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. But as far as qualifying goes, I think it's going to be Verstappen on top. I know.
I think it's going to be Perez. I'm going to go on a whim here.
Yeah?
I think Perez is going to be on pole. I think he is going to be driving with a chip on his shoulder for this year. because I think he wants to win, but I think, you're competing with Max Verstappen, but I think he's driving with a chip on his shoulder because I think he feels like the team is failing him.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like he thinks this might be his last year with Red Bull.
Potentially. I mean, we've talked about it before. I think Red Bull's main objective this year with Perez is to kind of achieve what Mercedes had with Bottas, with Bottas and Hamilton for a number of years. Like, Bottas would be competitive, maybe win a couple of races, be always consistently on the podium, but never really getting into being a thorn in the side of Lewis Hamilton. Like, he was always there, always competitive, but he never really had the pace of Hamilton in that situation. But with Checo and Verstappen, I think they're a little bit definitely closer than Bottas and Hamilton were. But it's a question of if Checo is going to be able to put Red Bull in a position where they have to decide who they're going to favor. It's obvious that Max has proven to be a race winner, and he's been the golden child for
a
Red
championship
Bull.
Winner.
Yeah, like, he's proven that he's earned the number one spot, so it's going to be Checo's fighting an uphill battle to prove to Red Bull that he might be their best chance at a title this year. I mean, not best chance. They're gonna win the title this year. Everyone's fairly confident in saying that, but I think with Checo, he's kind of got to force their hand until he's constantly beating Max. Max is going to be the golden child. So, yeah, like you said, Checo is probably driving with a chip on his shoulder because he feels like Max is the favorite, which he is, but he might want to prove something and say to Red Bull that don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like, let us go, let us fight, and I think I can beat Max, but he's got to pump in consistent races, and being on pole for Australia after a great race in Saudi Arabia would be a great way to do that.
Well, I think there was one commentator that said you might see Nico Rosberg from Mercedes type of scenario this year.
Yeah.
Where you might have Checo come in as the underdog, and then sneak in some wins, and then have enough to win.
Yeah, it's all about, like, that year with Lewis and Rosberg. Lewis had some really bad luck. He had a lot of DNFs early in the season, and then once the midfield cars kind of caught up to them, he was unable to get the points he needed over Rosberg to overtake the lead that he took early in the season, because there were a lot more cars further towards the front. I mean, with this Red Bull and with the way it looks right now, there's no excuse for it not to be a 1-2 for at least the foreseeable future. So if Checo can stay behind Max and get second place and maybe a fastest lap enough times, and then finish first with fastest lap when Verstappen has a shocker of a race or he has reliability issues or anything like that, very possibly could be. It's just going to be a matter of, on days when they're both like outside, there's no outside factors that are going to prevent them from finishing the race. Checo needs to be close to Max. So I really think this weekend is going to be what kickstarts the whole season as far as the narrative of the whole season. Because right now, Red Bull's outright favorites. Verstappen is probably everyone's favorite to win the title this year. No real surprise there. But it's if Checo in the next few races can make people start to question that. And we're also going to start seeing where the teams and the cars shake out, right? Saudi Arabia is still a relatively new track. Bahrain isn't, but it's the one that they've spent so much time at. So it's about who can set up their car, whose car outright fits the track, and who can set up their car well for the race. Now we're going to Melbourne, and then we're on to a few other races. Let me just pull up the calendar here. From Melbourne, we go to Azerbaijan, and then we have the Miami race, which is going to be new for everyone. And then we're back to Qatar. Yeah. So it's, oh no, that's the Qatar. That's the Emilia Romagna circuit. So yeah, I think this race is going to tell us if Aston is definitively second place in the constructors. Right now, they're tied with Mercedes. So yeah, this is kind of the make or break. As it's in the end, it's one race, but I think we're going to learn a lot more about where the teams and drivers stand with each other after this race. It's another street track, but it's not really a street track.
Let's take a prediction of who do you think will have the fastest pit stop?
Oh, man. Well, maybe it's going to be Aston if their Jackman's under there early again.
Oh, yeah.
Fastest pit stop. Red Bull's always up in this category. Williams, I think, snaked it last year. Was it Williams or was it
for fastest?
Yeah.
For this race?
Oh, not for this race, just
or in general?
For the season. Because in theory, I mean, like some races are hotter temperatures, warmer climates and stuff, but for the most part, pit stops are fairly generic, race to race. Fastest pit stop, 2022.
I'm going to go out a win, and I'm going to say it's Alpine.
You think it's Alpine? Any reasoning for that?
I'm going to say Alpine. No.
Just pulling it out of a hat?
Just pulling it out of a hat.
Nice. Let's see here. Looks like it was Red Bull last year. It was Red Bull last year. Oh, this is overall. They do a points-based system. Wow, that's funny.
That's weird.
Yeah, apparently over the course of the season, Red Bull was the fastest. Pit stops. That's weird. Anyway. Yeah, I would go with Red Bull. They just always seem to pump in really fast pit stops. So I would.
Damn, Red Bull across the board, eh? Who do you think's gonna win
the race? I'm not a betting man, but my prediction is gonna be Max. I just think that.
Really?
Yeah, I would love it to be someone else. I'd love it to be a non-Red Bull car that steps up there, but the Red Bull looks so strong. Max almost won the race last weekend, even with where he started in 15th place. Yeah, I think it's going to be Red Bull. Like, to me, right now, the interesting part is who's going to get the last podium position. Can Fernando keep up this pace? Can he consistently be the best of the rest driver outside of Red Bull? And how is Stroll going to negotiate fighting with Mercedes and Ferraris? Is he going to be able to get that car far enough up the grid in qualifying that it's not even a question that it's going to be Red Bull takes off and then Aston is going to be in their own world, and that is Ferrari and Mercedes fighting for for 5th through 7th or 5th through 8th? 5th through 8th, yeah. Math. Yeah, and I'm really interested to know where Ferrari stands because they were kind of nowhere last race. The 4th fastest team.
Solidly in 4th.
Yeah, is Mercedes going to maybe lose a bit of ground and be in a fight with Ferrari? Is Ferrari going to be able to out-qualify them but not at the pace? I think everyone would agree that Aston is probably the second fastest team. Be interesting to see if they can confirm that this weekend. But where does Mercedes shake out against Ferrari, especially with their change of development course? And then who's going to be the best of the rest outside the 4 teams? Like, who's going to be wanting to get onto those last 2 points positions?
I'd say probably Alpine, in my opinion, because they look like they're clear better than the lower tier teams. They're sometimes even fighting the top 4, not the top echelon of the top 4, but the lower, lower bracket sometimes. Yeah, I think it's gonna be Alpine for that bottom few spots.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad call. I would love to see some more from Williams this weekend. because they were really impressed in Bahrain, but kind of were nowhere in Saudi Arabia. So I'm interested to see if their pace, if they can keep it up in Australia, because it's kind of a medium downforce, a lot of medium speed corners. So there's a lot of mechanical grip there, which hasn't been Williams' strong suit, but there's some big straights. So yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see who ends up getting those last points positions. And it's just a shame because there's so much, like the 4 strong teams are at the top. It's hard to pin where the other teams are when they're not getting points, you know? So,
yeah.
I mean, if we want to talk about the the end, like the bottom half of the field, where do you think McLaren's going to end up this weekend?
Dead last.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be dead last. I think, sadly, I hate to say it, wearing a McLaren hat.
Yeah.
They're going to be dead last. But they did announce that they are restructuring.
Yeah, they got rid of their technical chief.
Their whole... James Key is gone, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, I was listening. I was reading about that and listening to a few podcasts on that topic, and it seems kind of not great in the way that McLaren handled that. As far as I can remember, he was brought in like 2020 and didn't really have a ton of what's the word I'm looking for? Didn't have a ton of autonomy. Like, he didn't have complete control over the team, and he kind of took over last year really with the development side of things, and they're not really giving him they didn't well, he's gone now. They didn't really give him a ton of time with this car. I think the biggest issue when it came to the team management and him was that McLaren didn't know about the woes that they had with this car until they got to testing. They knew it might be a bit slower, but they didn't know really how bad it was until they got to testing. So they were blindsided, and then they're like, well, this chief of technological development told us we were going to be fine, or told us we weren't going to be this bad. So they got rid of him. But I don't know. I'm a little optimistic that McLaren's the first 2 races for McLaren were kind of plagued with technical issues, like the first race with Lando having to fill up his hydraulics what seemed like every 5 laps. I'm hoping that this weekend, if they can keep their nose clean, no front wing damage, and I think they're going to be kind of mid-bottom pack. I'm hoping that they can get up as high as maybe 12th to 14th and just kind of have an anonymous race, just kind of hunker down. And it's just so unfortunate this year that having an okay race, having a consistent race, is not going to get you points. You have to be the best of the cars around you to get points. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's a blessing and a curse that we have an interesting battle further up the grid. But for these lower teams that are used to maybe squeaking out points every few weeks, it's going to be a lot tougher for them to do that. But I think you're right in Alpine. I think that's a safe, or not safe, but I think they're going to start showing some muscle and start showing some pace and bag some points this weekend. Also, Haas has been kind of in and around that the top or the bottom end of the points paying positions. I'll be interested to see if one of the Haas cars can get up into the mix. But yeah, I'm a little bit shocked at how slow Alpha Tauri's been recently.
Yeah, it kind of sucks because I like Nick DeVries.
Yeah,
you know, and I kind of want him to do well here. But yeah, they just don't have the speed.
No,
whatsoever. They just don't. They're just downright by the bottom. You know, like they don't have qualifying pace. I don't know if Tsunoda's driving that car really well, or if maybe it just is a little bit higher sometimes. But it seems like a really odd car to drive. You know.
Yeah,
I want to see them do better.
And Yuki, I want to
see them do better because I think they got some good talent there, but it just doesn't look like there's a car for them to really get comfortable with and drive. I was going to ask, who are your drivers to look out for? Do you think? Who do you think is going to have a great race?
Well, this kind of plays into what we were just talking about with McLaren. I think Oscar Piastri being the homegrown kid, the Aussie, coming back home, racing, sometimes it can make the driver's weekend, and they can have a strong showing when they're at home. But sometimes it can be a distraction because they might have friends and family at the track. They might feel a lot of pressure from their home crowd to perform. But I think I personally will have a keen eye on Oscar to see how he performs this weekend at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested to see if Lando bounces back as well, to see if he can show that he's the fastest McLaren driver this year. But outside of McLaren, I just always have a keen eye for McLaren drivers. I want to see Albon, like we talked about. I'm interested to see if the Williams drivers can get up the field. So I'd be interested to see if Albon can get that car into the last
in that point spot.
Yeah, I have a feeling that maybe he's going to get up there and maybe snag 10th or something like that if he can have a clean race and race hard. He's looked okay this year. He's looked fine, and he had a strong finish.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I'd love to see Albon do well. It's just unfortunate he had to retire last race. But I mean,
I'd like to see him do well as well.
Yeah, I know. You said one driver to watch, but I also am interested in Stroll. I want to see if he can maybe push Alonso a little bit. He had bad luck last weekend, and I would be interested to see if he can get up there towards the top of the grid. And okay, I'd say my driver to watch this weekend, because it'll mean something going forward, is going to be Carlos Sainz. He was kind of nowhere last race. I mean, both the Ferraris were kind of nowhere last race. But I want to see if he's going to be able to beat Chuck again. My prediction coming into the season was that he was going to have a fire lit within him to prove that he should be at least considered on par with Charles Leclerc. So I'm interested to see, if nothing else, to see where the Ferraris shake out and then where the two drivers come into it. As far as you know, do we have any? We don't have any penalties coming into this race, do we? For equipment, anything like that?
No, I do not think so. But if if Leclerc were to take another electrical part, I don't know what system it is, but he would take a penalty. I don't think there is any coming into this.
That's good.
Race,
I don't want to see it.
Yeah,
because it's always a shame when you see the Ferrari, or when you see any car kind of have their race ruined. Like with Max, at least he's going to get up to the front, but it's going to be a lot harder for a team like Ferrari. I want to see a race that's representative of where everyone is. And I think the last two races have shown what teams' paces are, what the car's pace is. But I want to see good, clean racing with no external factors. I'm looking at you, FIA. Don't do any more stupid penalties. But yeah.
So since you had 3, I'm going to say 3 as well.
Okay.
And I think the people to look out for, racers to look out for, I think Alonso, because I want to see him win.
Yeah. He's probably the
Russell.
best bet to get another winner outside of Red Bull.
I think another one to keep your eye on will be Russell. And then I do think another one will be probably Stroll as well. Here, my bold prediction: Perez and Verstappen crash out.
Interesting. Yeah,
I think both of them will take 1-2. I think Verstappen will take first.
Yeah.
Perez will take second, and then I think you'll see either. I think you'll see Perez try to do a late lunge. They turn into each other.
Yeah.
Take each other out of the race.
See,
and then you're left with an Alonso victory.
to me, I feel like if anyone's going to do a late lunge, Checo is going to cause an accident in defending, and Max is going to cause an accident in overtaking. So I think that's the perfect storm we need to get that. But they're even on points right now, so it's not a bad. It's not terrible odds that they both look at it as, well, I need to get a gap, I need to get ahead. Especially Checo, he's never led a world championship before, so he's probably thinking, well, this is my best chance to bag some points. So
yeah,
not a bad idea. I like what you're thinking there. It does seem though that
I think they crash out.
It does seem though that that's what's going to be needed to get anyone else on the top of the podium. Because
Yep. And I think their relationship is shattered right now.
You think so?
I think it's all behind smoke and mirrors. I think they don't like each other. Because they want to win.
I don't think they're best of friends for sure. I like you said though, I feel like it needs to be a crash or something to really ignite that rivalry between them. I feel like at this point it's still a bit civil, but to see something like that where they touch and crash and it impacts their race, even if it's just touch and puncture a broken front wing, that would be a very, very nice spanner in the works.
Yep. That's my prediction.
So that's your prediction. Let's do some predictions. So your prediction is that the Red Bulls collide. I'll give it to you, even if it's just wheel to wheel battle. If there's contact that results in any significant, either like if they push them off the track, if they touch and either break a wing, puncture a tire, if it's in the heat of battle, I'll give it to you. So that's your prediction.
Okay.
We'll do 2, eh? All right, my prediction is...
So you do your first one first.
So my prediction, I'm going to predict what the podium is going to be.
Okay.
It's going to be Max, Checo, Alonso. That's my podium prediction. That's what I think it's going to be. And do you have another one before I give my second one?
I'll give your second one right now.
My
second one right now.
My second one is going to be quote unquote relative disaster for Ferrari this weekend. I have a feeling
relative disaster
that and I'll give I'll quantify this. I think Ferrari is going to finish no better than 6th. I think it's going to be Red Bull, Mercedes, Aston. I don't think Ferrari is going to finish higher than 6th. And I think there's going to be a gap between them and the top 3 teams being Mercedes, Aston, and Red Bull.
Okay.
I think Mercedes is still going to be faster than Ferrari, and I think they're going to have a bit of a gap to them. So the way I would think about it is like if Mercedes is ahead of them by, let's say, more than like 8 or 10 seconds. So it's like it's not even close to being competitive. Like it's not like they're going to be overtaking him within 5 laps after the race. That's my prediction. What's yours?
My prediction is, and I just want to make sure, I just want to do something real quick. My prediction is that there will be, let's say, 2 safety cars.
Interesting. Okay. I like that. I like that.
2 safety cars.
This doesn't have to play into your other prediction, but I'm just curious. You think obviously one might be from a Red Bull crash. What do you think the other one's going to be? Is it going to be debris on track? Is it going to be another car stalled? Is it going to be a car? Just for fun, I want to see if this happens that we can be like Mike was dead on. I
think you're going to have a AlphaTauri stall out breakdown.
Yeah, that's not too bad. I mean, they've proven to be fairly reliable this year, so maybe it's a bit of a. But yeah, you never know. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you're right. No, I'm not hoping for AlphaTauri to have a poor weekend. I hope you're right with that. That'd be fun if we could get 2 safety cars.
Me too. Mm-hmm.
Did you Google the likelihood of safety cars at Albert Park? What the average?
So I tried to find one, and there is no stat that I can find right now of how many safety cars. Here, I'll do a quick Control F. The most that I've seen so far was 4 safety cars in 2006. But it doesn't really have an average amount of safety cars. Average amount of safety cars in the Australian GP. Average amount of safety
See,
cars
also
in the
these
Australian GP.
these stats are going to be slightly swayed because Albert Park and the Australian Grand Prix used to be the first race of the F1 season for a number of years. So there will have been reliability and also like drivers still a bit dusty.
Yeah. So I'm going to say 2. I'm going to stick with 2. Because I think it would make that race very interesting.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah, I think as long as we don't have any top drivers that fall back and then the safety car helps them get back in the position, I think it would help the race for sure. I just pulled up a stat here. 14 of the 25 races held at Albert Park have featured a safety car period. So you're looking at a less than 50% chance of one. So,
wow.
But
I'm going to say there's 2.
You're going to say there's 2. That is a bold prediction. It would probably cause for an interesting race. How about we? Do you have anything else you'd like to add to this edition of the podcast, the Melbourne?
I don't think I have much. I don't think I have anything to add.
Well, I just wanted to add on to this. I'm just going to take a quick gander at the forecast for the race weekend, and it looks clear. 19 degrees and sunny with some clouds on Friday, 16 degrees with some clouds on Saturday, and 19 degrees again on Sunday. So unfortunately, well, maybe not unfortunately, but it looks like we're going to have a clear conditioned weekend. Yeah, so it's going to be a fun race.
That's our Australian GP preview. Right there.
Yes, sir. We will see you following the race
for the
debrief.
End of the race.
And then
for the debrief.
So after this weekend, we have quite a bit of a break, eh?
We do?
Yeah, we don't have another race until the end of April.
We'll have to find something to do.
Maybe that's when we do our.
We could have a limited run.
Yeah.
Camping trip, yeah.
Because the race this weekend, and then we don't get another one for 4 weeks after this weekend. The next race is Baku on the 28th of April. Well, the race is on the 30th, but the weekend starts on the 28th. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Alrighty, everyone. Thank you very much for listening to another edition of Caliper Counseling, a broadcast therapy podcast. Drop us a line. Actually, no, we don't have a phone number.
Don't.
Follow us on Twitter at Caliper Council and let us know what you think the race is going to look like and what you'd like to see out of our future episodes. If you've made it this far, thank you very much. Don't forget to follow us on all of your social media and, actually, we don't have Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on your favorite podcatcher to get future episodes. And if you don't mind, give us a 5-star review. Over and lights out. Toodles!